the Titans, the Mount Rushmore of players we all know the names of. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Then there are the Giants hoping to join this group. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Nonetheless, you can't forget about these new guys hoping to dethrone everything those that came before them created and blaze their own trail into NFL history. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Mac Jones. Men that won't let you forget who they are. And if you do, they'll be more than happy to remind you. This is the show where we will talk about all those legacies and so much more. We will follow these storylines from the beginning of the season all the way to the climax of the Super Bowl. We will see giants fall and watch new men who you never expected to take over stand tall. Through adversity and victory, the NFL has it all. We will cover every minute of it here. No buts about it.
And welcome to another episode of No Buts About It. I am in a dorm room in Steubenville, Ohio. Chus is in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is January 30th. We are here. It's the day after the AFC and NFC championships. Chus is happy. I am sad. The refs are biased. It's all how it goes. I now have to do the NFL Combine, like we agreed. I'm going to be a good sport about it, though. I'm going to enjoy it, maybe get drafted first overall if the Chicago Bears haven't decided what to do with their draft pick yet. I think it's going to be me. First overall pick, Josh Butts.
I was going to say, in fairness, though, I also technically still have a chance to do the Combine. Although my pick is in the Super Bowl, they haven't won the Super Bowl. And the whole kicker with it was we pick our Super Bowl champions. So theoretically speaking, I could also be doing the Combine. However, Josh, you can get it out of the way either next week or right before Super Bowl, and then I would have to do it by myself. Or you can wait. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not technically out of the woods yet.
No, you're not. You're not out of the woods.
But my life is spared for another 2 weeks.
This has actually put me in a quandary because I don't want to root for the Chiefs because they beat the Bengals. I also don't want to root for the Eagles just because I don't really like the Eagles. Their fan base. I know a lot of their fans, and their fans annoy me. The ones that I know, if I'm being honest. You know who you are, because some of you listen to this show and you know who you are and you laugh about it. But yeah, I'm not rooting for the Eagles, but I don't. In the ideal world, the Super Bowl would end in an infinite tie where like it's 3 a.m. and they're just like, no, okay, you know what? It's the first ever tie in NFL history for the Super Bowl. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, with the Eagles fan base, I mean, a lot of people on Twitter have been saying these are like two of the worst fan bases to go against each other. I don't know. Technically, I feel like Pittsburgh versus Philly would be the most toxic Super Bowl ever coming from a Steelers fan. Just because I know from both perspectives how toxic Eagles fans can be, and I know how toxic Steelers fans can be. Granted, I don't consider myself the most toxic Steeler fan, although I have toxic tendencies. I'm usually pretty like, you win some, you lose some. Let Najee cook, even if Najee is doing bad. Let's give them a year, whereas most people are just like up in arms about things very quickly. Eagles fans, I will never forget the story that I heard at my job whenever I was conversating with a fellow person that just happened to be at work. He's not a coworker, but
fellow human.
Yeah, he was I guess a customer, I guess, a guest or something. We just happened to be there at the same time, and he was telling me about the Eagles and stuff, and he told me that he went to an Eagles game because he obviously grew up near Philly. And he told me the story about how Eagles fans were ruthless because the one time he went to a Commanders, or at the time it was Redskins, Eagles game. And I guess the Eagles fans like backed the father of this child up into a corner and held him back against the wall, as two other Eagles fans picked up this kid upside down and started dipping him up and down into a trash can, saying, "Your kid needs to know where he belongs."
Wow. Wait, that was Eagles fans who did that?
Eagles fan. It was in Philly. So it was like he was an Eagles fan. He wasn't a part of it. He was walking out of the bathroom and there was like 5 Eagles fans. It was like 7 Eagles fans total, he said. 5 of them were surrounding the father who was a Redskins fan and like had him up against the wall. And then the other 2 guys picked up the kid upside down and was like dipping him in and out of the trash can, saying your son needs to get to has to understand where his team is, like what his team is.
That's
it's like
messed
a rivalry
up. That's messed
or
up.
something. Yeah.
That's like stealing CJ Gardner Johnson's bike, which I'm not sure, or not bike, car. And I'm not sure that he ever got it back. But okay.
I didn't hear an update on that, but I mean, granted, this story could be like completely false, but these are just secondhand accounts, and I'm not rolling it out because
only facts on the show.
I mean, I did go to Lincoln Financial Field as a Steelers fan the one time, and I've never gotten chirped more in my entire life. So, and I went to Cleveland, and I thought that was going to be bad. It wasn't. So I got chirped a lot in Philly, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know about Kansas City though. I don't really know much about their fan base to really know.
I would like to make my official statement as a Bengals fan about that game.
Go ahead, Mr.
My official statement is, while the Bengals offensive line decided that they were only going to play 3 quarters, this did cause issues. Burrow was sacked too often and too easily. Furthermore, Joe Burrow did throw, I believe, 2 interceptions, one which was kind of his fault, and then one that I don't really think was his fault at all. It was kind of a dumb pass. He drew into double coverage, but like the odds of it landing where it did in the Chiefs defender's hands were off, so I'm not going to put that one on Burrow. I also, though, think that the refs were favoring the Chiefs. Not that it was rigged, but I do think there were some missed calls, probably on both sides, but I noticed the Bengals ones more because I'm a Bengals fan. But it seems to me that the Bengals ones, based on a quick rewatch of the highlights and the missed penalties, they were more severe. The penalties against the Bengals, or lack thereof, against the Chiefs. For example, on not the final play, but close to the end of the game, Patrick Mahomes rolls out. B.J. Hill and Trey Hendrickson are both being held. This resulted in Patrick Mahomes running for about 10 yards and then trying to run out of bounds. This, of course, resulted in Joseph Asai pushing him out of bounds and landing on top of him, drawing a flag, which resulted in putting them in field goal range. Harrison Butker, love the guy, has not been great from 50-plus yards. So while I am not putting all of the blame on Joseph Asai, I do think that was stupid to push him out of bounds, first of all. Second of all, there's an issue with the refs all season, all teams. The refs should not be deciding these games. Did Joseph Asai deserve the penalty? Yes. But there was also 2 guys being held that weren't called for it that would have helped to negate that and putting them in field goal range. What I want to see from the NFL is more consistent. Yeah, Chus is like backing up because I'm getting on my milk crate. I want to see more consistent reffing, more consistent officiating. It's just been all the teams all year have been complaining about it. It's just not consistent. Another example is yesterday, Joe Burrow threw a ball. He was about to be sacked. He threw the ball, and it was clearly targeting Samaje Perine. But a defender put his hand up and knocked it down, and so they called intentional grounding because where it landed, there was nobody. Literally the next drive, the same thing happened with Patrick Mahomes, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, whatever." That's the thing. That's what makes me mad. The lack of consistency.
So, I, for once in my entire existence ever, actually watched both playoff games this weekend. Because over the time I would be like, oh yeah, I didn't catch it or I missed half of it. These are the first 2 games that I've actually watched the full game for, like the entire playoffs. Like even the divisional I missed parts of. Wild card, obviously I boycotted the Cowboys game. I mean, we've been over this. The thing that I just want to specify is I definitely agree with the referee situation when it comes to being biased. Maybe not necessarily towards a team, but like I consider it more inconsistent than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is just an issue that's been happening this year. I think this has been an issue that has happened over the last 20 years.
Okay.
And like it's a weird thing, but like people talk about the Steelers Seahawks Super Bowl, and like the Steelers won that Super Bowl, but the Seahawks fans always go back and like I never really watched the tape on that, but I guess there was a lot of missed penalties from the Steelers costing the Seahawks a lot of, mishaps or a lot of favored penalties in that game. I mean, you can go back to that game against the Saints and the Rams, or I believe it was the Saints and the Rams. It was in 2018, I think it was. I still have a picture on my phone of the referee looking right at the pass interference play where the guy's not even looking at the ball. It's clearly pass interference. No pass interference was called, causing the Saints to completely lose that game. Like, I don't think it's necessarily been an issue of this year. I think it's just been coming out a lot more that it's like, yeah, there's another missed call. And I think with social media, it's become a lot more apparent than it used to be back then. And I think the referee situation isn't really necessarily a now problem. It's been an issue. And I think the NFL really needs to figure it out. However, with the calls that happened in the game, I do think that there were missed calls on the Bengals side of the ball. I saw the legal block in the back during the one kick return that the Bengals, should have gotten, against the Chiefs, should have pushed them back a little bit. However, some of the penalties that the Chiefs did get, I felt like in a way weren't like not for
Right.
the Chiefs, but against the Bengals kind of were warranted. Okay, the intentional grounding thing. Um, with Joe Burrow, it was kind of hard to tell because like it almost felt like when he threw it to the ground, like I didn't really check it as much because I know obviously you're a Bengals fan, you probably saw it better than I did. I couldn't really see Samaje Perine like in the area. I just saw him like just slam it on the ground. So I guess the referees could have seen that as like an intentional grounding. I
Yeah.
did see Joe Burrow at one point throw it away. And when he threw it away, he pulled a Patrick Mahomes where he like threw it to the ground, but it was close enough to the one receiver that it was like went drilled right into the ground, like right at his feet. And I was like, okay, well, that was actually like a smart Patrick Mahomes type play. Joe Burrow just
High
did. He's
IQ play
learning.
by Patrick Mahomes.
No, this was Joe Burrow though.
Oh,
This was
Joe
Joe
Burrow.
Burrow.
Okay.
This was Joe Burrow. He did this and he threw it like right to the ground and and they didn't call it on Joe Burrow at that moment. I don't know if it was this game or if it was last game or or what, but I knew I was like, like Joe Burrow's learning like from Patrick Mahomes, like,
Mhm.
How it's going. And then obviously there's that intentional grounding penalty. Um, I I mean, I definitely think it should be a little bit more fair in some aspects. I didn't really see any questionable penalties called necessarily. I know
Right.
that you might have. I
I
mean,
I didn't.
there weren't like there have been times like during like Patriots games, like because a lot of people were like, "Oh, the Chiefs are now the Patriots of the NFL," and I had seen some games where the Patriots like, I remember the one year Cam Hayward went up, Tom Brady threw the ball, Cam Hayward tapped him on the chest, and um, they called it like unnecessary roughness or
Mhm.
roughing the passer, and all he did was tap him, and Tom Brady just like didn't even move, and they're like roughing the passer. I'm like, bro, homie didn't even touch him, or like he touched him lightly on the chest. When players all the time like literally just grab you on the shoulders after it happens. So I was like, I felt like there was a lot more of that. Whereas like when Patrick Mahomes was running out of bounds, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, I was soft," blah 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 blah. I mean, in fairness
No, that
to
one was warranted. That one was
that,
warranted.
that was warranted. I mean, I felt bad for the guy because obviously, I don't know his name, but he was like crying after the game, and my heart kind of shattered for him because you don't mean to, but you're trying to make the play, and
Right.
Patrick Mahomes is doing his thing, and you're like frustrated, and you're trying to hold on, and all that stuff. It really hurt me to see him so upset and him crying. But I don't see how it couldn't have been called because he Patrick Mahomes was out of bounds. The dude
Right.
was also out of
Right.
bounds, and he pushed him.
That.
So I mean, there were penalties that were missed. I mean, the Chiefs obviously got that one taunting penalty that was like clear as day. It was like use your head.
Yeah.
Andy Reid was like use your head. I'm like, I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess it could have been worse. I mean, I guess you guys could have gotten into a brawl at the end of the game, like happened in the Eagles
Yeah.
49ers game. But I mean, I mean, at least it also wasn't a blowout. It was a very close game, no matter which way it went. Um, Unfortunately, we're not going to probably hear the end of it because of Twitter. Um, but I think the thing is that just like every team and every fan base, as hard as it is, and as bad as calls are, and as bad as plays may be, you just pick it up, dust yourself off, and just move on to the next year. As hard as it is,
Yeah,
Josh.
that's what I'm doing. I mean, hey,
as hard as it is.
NASCAR season is starting soon. We're gonna become a NASCAR podcast. I'm done with
Don't do that. I don't know.
No.
I don't know jack squat about freaking cars.
We're going
dude.
NASCAR. No, we'll stay NFL. But no, I do agree that the calls that were made were warranted. It was
Some
more
of
so the
them,
lack,
most
the
of them,
lack,
yeah.
the lack of calls were more so what's concerning. And I get they're human, like they're humans out there, and there's that aspect of it. But at the same time, the NFL has this whole thing where they're like, no, our games aren't rigged. Why would you think they're rigged? And it's like, you know, the SpongeBob meme where he's like pointing at all the different stuff. It's like, yes, like, look at all. This is why people think it's rigged.
I mean, yeah, I think that I mean, it kind of goes back to my theory like a couple weeks ago where I was like, yeah, Buffalo's going to go to the Super Bowl because that's what the script writers want because of the DeMar Hamlin situation. Originally, Buffalo probably wouldn't have been in the script, but I believe it's rigged, blah, 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 with the entertainment situation because technically the NFL can rig the games because it is technically an entertainment LLC. I'm not entirely sure though, but I believe that it is.
Can they,
I'll
now that people
double
are
research.
betting on it? Because people can't bet on WWE. So can they do it now that people are betting on it, I wonder?
I think people
federal-
can bet on WWE.
I've never seen anything betting for WWE.
I mean, because it's staged and like the scripts come out the night before, typically, like people they post spoilers. So like, if you don't want to watch the show and you look up like, for example, Royal Rumble was this past Saturday. If you look up Royal Rumble spoilers on Saturday before the show, you're probably gonna get all the spoilers.
Can I bet on
So
that then? If I
you
already know
can,
what's
but
gonna
most
happen?
of the time you already know it's like Cody Rhodes was like a negative 190 and like he won the Royal Rumble. Like most of the time when somebody is going to win, it's not even worth betting on them.
No.
I mean, there is always that chance where it's like, oh, if I bet on this guy, he accidentally wins or someone in the script changes something because it has happened before. There have been people that have been like, oh, this actually went against the script. This person actually won. And like then later on you find out that, yeah, they changed the script last minute to have this person change title hands or this match should go in this direction. Or so, I mean, it happens, but I don't know how betting works in the WWE. I don't think you can, but I know there's betting odds. There are betting odds.
That's
So
what
like, I just don't know where you would find it because I've never bet on WWE personally. I feel like it's so much harder to bet on WWE when the scripts come out like the night before a big event.
Right. I'd be curious to see because I wonder if I'd think they'd get in a lot of trouble if they were betting on stuff that was already pre-rigged. But I don't think it is rigged. It's just
What, the NFL?
yeah, the NFL. I don't think the NFL's rigged.
I mean, if they wanted to, they could have, but I mean, I understand why people are frustrated and stuff, but like honestly, like it wouldn't really benefit them entirely to have it rigged because like I mean, like you think about matchups in the past, like in Super Bowls, like there have been some really bad matchups that
Right.
nobody's wanted to see. Like, for example, in 2018, I did not want to see the Rams play the Patriots. And the game ended up being awful.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody wanted to watch that.
Right.
I didn't want to watch that. Or whatever year that was. It was what was it, 2019 maybe?
2017, I want to say.
Really? Was it that far back?
Something like that
Because 2018 was the Eagles, Patriots, and then the Chiefs, 49ers was 2020, and 2021 was the Bucks, Bucks.
February 3rd of 2019. Okay, I was right.
Okay, so it was 2019, and then yeah, because 2017 was
And Adam Levine was the halftime show.
interesting. I don't remember that.
You don't remember him going shirtless and like running around, like, covered in tattoos?
I was out watching it that night. I was at a restaurant. That was my first year that me and my friends started going out
No,
watching the game. So
I don't think it is rigged. It's just annoying. And I was kind of thinking about this last night, when I'm like upset about it. I was like, Roger Goodell, this goes back to like the whole DeMar Hamlin thing where they were like, okay, allegedly they said 5 minutes and then we're going to play the game again. And then Zach Taylor and the Bengals were like, no, that's stupid. And then they kind of made it hardest for the Bengals with the coin toss and all this other stuff. And the Bengals have just kind of been flying in the face of Roger Goodell until yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bengals, if they wanted the Bengals to lose, if they were trying to rig it that hard, don't you think that somewhere in the Baltimore Ravens game, you guys would have been costed something that was stupid, and you guys would have lost way back when?
Well, that's the thing. I'm wondering, were the Ravens supposed to beat us?
When?
Were they were supposed to favor the Ravens, and then the Bengals still won, and then because of the fumble in the jungle, and then the Bills, did the Bengals somehow beat the Bills because Poyer got injured, and Roger Goodell's like, shoot, this is going to become another Deflategate situation where I have to hand the ball to Tom Brady, or I have to hand the Lombardi trophy to this quarterback that I've been trying to not have succeed. I didn't want this guy to win the Super Bowl, and now he's winning the Super Bowl. Maybe Roger Goodell was like, oh no, I don't want that to happen. This is my conspiracy that I've got going on to code.
I mean, don't overthink it. I mean, the more you overthink it, the more you're just gonna go nuts.
No, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel better because I can justify it.
Maybe you can. I would not, because the more that I got into shit like this, and I usually keep my language under it, but the reason I don't get into shit like this is because it makes you literally go insane. Because I literally thought back in 2018 off of that Steelers Jesse James catch that they literally rigged the game. And I was convinced that the Steelers lost home field advantage, and that was the reason why we lost in the playoffs. It wasn't. We just went up against a bunch of good teams. But I was or whatever year that was, I don't remember if it was 2018, then it was the year of the Jags, I believe. So there was a year that we lost in the divisional or something. But either way,
I don't think it's rigged. I'm going to say that over and over. I don't think it's rigged. But
man.
I think there's the possibility Roger Goodell was like, hey, guys. Hey, Ron Tolbert. I think that's the head ref's name. He's like, hey, if keep an eye on the Bengals. They're a little iffy. I don't really want them in the Super Bowl. Maybe a little. I've been reading this book. 12. It's about Deflategate. It's called Tom Brady and His Battle for Redemption by Casey Sherman and Dave Wedge. Roger Goodell's corruption, according to this book, is insane.
I mean, it's not impossible for it to be rigged, but I feel like quickly a lot of fan bases, I feel like no matter what fan base you're in, immediately when a game isn't called the way that it is, I feel like many people just immediately think it's rigged.
No, but that's the thing. I'm saying it's not.
I know, but I think that's the problem. I cannot tell you. Also, literally, one of my least favorite things ever is playoff social media.
Yeah.
That is, whether it's football, hockey. I remember hockey. Oh my gosh. When the Pittsburgh Penguins went on to the Stanley Cup, I would check the comments every time the Penguins would win, and I have never seen so much utter disapproval of the Penguins in the Stanley Cup. Everyone was like, oh yeah, the refs sold the Penguins. I'm like, bro, some of these calls were warranted, bro. And it's I would never say anything, but I would get slightly frustrated, and I get it. But one of the things that I've noticed a lot with the NFL fans, no matter what side of the ball you are, because I see people being like, I'm a Chiefs fan and I think this is rigged. I'm like, no, the hell you do not. If the Chiefs fans are probably all I know from my perspective, as a Steelers fan, if we get a penalty for roughing the passer, or and it's against the other team, somebody roughs Kenny Pickett or something, and it looks like a love tap, and I'm like, oh, that didn't look like roughing the passer, but hey, I'll take it.
Right.
I've never as a fan, you're never gonna be like, oh, that's bullshit. San Francisco should have had that penalty. That shouldn't have even been a penalty for us. No fan is ever gonna say that.
Yeah.
Like it so like I mean it's kind of those things, but like one of the things I hate about the social media right now is going through the NFL and everybody being like, "Oh, the NFL's rigged," and I'm a Chiefs fan, and "Oh, the NFL's rigged," and then you go on the Eagles page and they're like, "Yeah, good job, Eagles. You beat a beat up quarterback and you beat up a third and fourth string quarterback," and I'm like, "Bro, Brock Purdy was 7-0 going into this game. He was not a backup quarterback. In fact, he's probably going to start next year."
Oh.
Like these people on Twitter, these people on social media don't know
Oh.
what the heck they're talking about 95% of the time. So it's like, yeah, the Eagles destroy the 49ers, but everyone's going to talk about the fact that the quarterback sucked. In the Dallas Cowboys game, everyone's just going to be like, "Oh yeah, refs versus Cowboys." Every single game I feel like I saw refs versus the other team, or good job, you won because of an injured secondary. Like even with the Bengals, they were like, "Congratulations, Bengals! You beat the Bills with a beat up secondary." And I was like, the Bengals still won. It doesn't matter. Just move on with your life, Bills Mafia. Move on with your like. Every team just needs to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and hope for the best next year, because every team that made it to the playoffs has a very good team that will be very good next year, except the Buccaneers. I really don't know how that team's going to go because it's looking a little.
Well, half their
Just
team's free agents. So
that's why I don't really know. The rest of the teams all have up and coming promising seasons, whether it is the Eagles and the Chiefs. The Bengals still have a very young team. The 49ers have a very good team still. You can keep going on and on.
yeah.
Cowboys, Jags, Chargers, and teams that didn't even make it in, Patriots, Steelers, they all have futures that are possible. And it's just one of these things that it sucks, but as a fan, your time will come. From an AFC North rival to another AFC North rival, your time will come. Just give it time.
Are you done with your rant?
It's not yeah, I literally hate everybody on Twitter ever.
Okay,
This
okay.
is why I don't plug my Twitter,
The
because
anti-Twitter rant.
yeah, because anytime that I go on Twitter, I just get really, really angry.
No, yeah.
So
There were okay. This is the last thing. Then we got to talk about the other game. There were fans getting mad at Joseph Asai that were Bengals fans, and they're like, "You suck" and all that. And I was like, he was the best player on the defense that day. But okay,
yeah,
go off.
he had one bad play.
Yeah,
just that ending.
But let's talk about the other game. The other game was boring.
It was really funny to watch. I'm not gonna lie, because I don't like the 49ers, because I just don't want them. I just didn't want the 49ers to. Listen, I don't like the Cowboys and the 49ers because I don't like the idea of them tying the Steelers and the Patriots for 6 Super Bowls.
Okay.
So that's the only reason why. But also, I was rooting for the Eagles the entire time. But
yes,
go ahead.
You were. Yes. So, first of all, yes, Brock Purdy is still a backup quarterback. I know he's gone 7-0, but he's still a backup quarterback by definition. Even Jimmy Garoppolo is technically a backup quarterback now because Trey Lance is the starter for some reason. But Brock Purdy has been playing well. I think this game actually, of all things, the winner of it, besides the Eagles, obviously, because they got the most points, but 49ers on their side, the winner of it was Brock Purdy. Because it kind of showed us that he is not just a system quarterback. This isn't a system where you can just plug anyone in and they will succeed. Because they put Josh Johnson in, and he did not do well before he got hurt. And then he got hurt, and it was like, well, now what? Who goes in? And apparently, no, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Is it really?
Yes. They announced, they were like, the next quarterback up on the depth chart is Christian McCaffrey. So,
what?
You fact check me. That's what the announcer said.
No, I'm not fact checking you. I'm just like,
they announced Christian McCaffrey. So what?
Because yesterday, the reason is because I know yesterday me and my one friend, obviously we went out to watch the game because me and him were both Eagles fans, and the other kid that came with us was a 49ers fan. Or he wore the 49ers shirt. He's not a 49ers fan, but he wanted to wear it to offset. It doesn't matter. Long story short, we looked it up, and at one point in time, Kyle Juszczyk was the emergency quarterback. and we were kind of rooting for Kyle Juszczyk to go in because I've always wanted to see an emergency quarterback go in. As bad as that sounds, I just think it'd be really funny to see Christian McCaffrey taking the balls and just start throwing them and stuff.
They ended up going into a wildcat formation with Debo and Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
And they ran that for like 2 plays, and they're like, okay, this isn't working because like no one believes we're actually going to pass. So they put Brock Purdy back in, who couldn't throw. He couldn't throw he could throw like 5 yards at the most. I think in the second half, the guy who had the longest pass attempt was Christian McCaffrey, the running back, and he threw it to nobody. They like did this huge fancy. They had this like huge fancy play. Then you just see Christian McCaffrey throw a 30-yard bomb, and you're like, oh my gosh, who's out? Debo out there? Who's out there? George Kittle? You're expecting something huge, and it's just no one. There's no one out there, and it was so anticlimactic.
It was really funny because I remember watching it, and my friend was just like, he was like, oh shoot, Christian McCaffrey is about to throw it. Oh shoot, and he was like, oh, then he goes, oh, what? McCaffrey, there's nobody there. and like the way that my friend says it is just so funny.
It was so underwhelming. I was like, oh my gosh, momentum swing for the 49ers. They're going to come back and win this on the most insane system. And no, they didn't. They were blown out. The Eagles kind of killed them. Gardner Minshew came in. I don't know if he had a touchdown, but he played.
He did not. I think he just kind of handed off the ball at the end of the game, just kind of solidify it, and he took the final knee. So
yeah, it was a painful game to watch because I was like, why don't they just give it to the Eagles at this point? Because the 49ers weren't at a point where they were even in the game when Josh Johnson went down.
Yeah, it felt like they were flat at that point because I felt like the game was very like the Eagles went in and they scored that touchdown, and I was like, all right, well, the Eagles obviously are not going to make this easy. They are a very good team. And then like you see the 49ers go in, and the 49ers, like, it's back and forth, 7-0. And then Christian McCaffrey finally scores to tie it. And then I'm like, all right, so we have a ball game now. Mm-hmm. The next thing you know, like the Eagles just start running away with it. And like, there's just nothing the 49ers could do because Josh Johnson just was not that guy. And I like your point. I feel like with the 49ers, everyone's always said like, oh yeah, you can just stick whatever quarterback you want in that thing. And I feel like I might've said this too. I feel like maybe I might've said this, but I think this proved everybody, and maybe even myself, I would have to go back and listen to every single audio file that we talked about the 49ers on, which is a lot because we do 3 shows a week typically. But it really proves that point. Like, you can't just throw any quarterback in it. And maybe that proves that Brock Purdy is a lot better of a quarterback than we give him credit for. Maybe not necessarily a starter, but maybe he's a solid QB2, just like Gardner Minshew. Like, I mean, we don't know how well he would do in actual season play when your team's not already hot. You gotta, if you start him next season over Trey Lance, for whatever reason, you have to see how well he does at the beginning of the season, because sometimes teams don't always start off hot in the beginning of the season. They wishy-washy. Some teams start 0-3 and somehow along the ways win 10 straight. I mean, it not happens all the time, but I mean, the Bengals were almost undefeated for 3 months, but also they had their ups and downs at the beginning of the season. So you got to see Brock Purdy run the highs and lows.
Right.
And, more or less. So,
and like, people are gonna be like, Josh Johnson. I mean, who is that? But like, it's not like this dude he's been in the league for 15 years. He's been a member of 14 different teams, and he played in the UFL, the AAF, and the XFL. So he's experienced. He hasn't started a lot, but he's been around teams. He knows football.
Josh Johnson also made his first postseason completed pass ever yesterday, which was really funny. But
he's been around teams. He knows the sport. He's not just this random guy that they picked up off the street.
But the thing is like, everyone's like, oh yeah, Josh Johnson. Who's Josh Johnson? Bro, when Brock Purdy went in, they were like, who the heck is Brock Purdy? You're having Mr. Irrelevant go in? They said the same thing. And then everybody was like, oh my gosh, Brock Purdy. And then there's this kid that I know. And, man, you want to talk about bandwagon, my friend. He is, I love him. He's a good kid. but my goodness, he has literally every jersey I've ever seen in my life. He literally, the Bengals and the Chiefs played, and then he also had a Brock Purdy shirt and a San Francisco 49ers hat on the way. And he was wearing his Bengals jersey. And he was like, yeah, go Bengals. And then well, he didn't wear the 49ers stuff because apparently it didn't come in time. So the 49ers lost. And he didn't say anything. And then the Bengals, he had his Bengals jersey on. And he was like, yeah, go Bengals, love Jamar Chase, blah, 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 blah. Bengals lose. I get a Snapchat from him, and it says, yeah, my boy Mahomes is going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm like, bro, you literally just had a Bengals jersey on like 2 hours ago. Where is this? And he was like, I'm a big Chiefs fan, but I also really like Jamar Chase. And then he was like, F the Eagles though, bro. I'm sorry. And I'm like, I don't even care, man. Just like, and then I was like, but make sure to wear your Chiefs jersey on Super Bowl Sunday. Maybe they'll lose because you bought Brock Purdy merch and Kansas City merch, and you have a Chargers jersey and a Jacksonville jersey, and they've all lost in the playoffs so far. So maybe if you wear the Chiefs jersey, they'll lose on it in Super Bowl too. But
I want them to tie. They're gonna tie.
I also don't like the idea of bandwagons. But then again, I also wear a lot of jerseys.
You do.
So I guess I can't really speak on their behalf. But also, I mean, there's always teams that have special places in my heart.
That's the thing. That's the other thing. I like players on each team. I think every team there's a player that I like to watch or like as a person.
Because in fairness, I don't know how much necessarily, and like this is out of like complete like me, but like I really don't know how much I would be rooting for the Eagles right now if it wasn't for Gardner Minshew. I mean, I get that, yeah, Minshew's the backup QB2 type thing, but like I had a whole phase last year where everybody, like I had the mustache growing and everyone was like, oh, bro, you're like Minshew's doppelganger. And I dressed up for him as Halloween. And like, I always liked Minshew. Back in 2019, I liked him when he came into the league. And even before then, I watched him a little bit in college. Like when he came into the league, I tried my best to grow out a mustache, but I couldn't even grow facial hair my senior year of high school. I didn't start being able to grow facial hair until COVID. So I always kind of liked him, and I always really, really wanted him to succeed and do well. And to be honest, like, I don't know how much of a big Eagles fan I would have been if it wasn't for him. And I mean, I get people like certain players. Like, I mean, I have a Miami Dolphins jersey, but it's a Minkah Fitzpatrick Miami Dolphins jersey. I have an Adam Humphries Tennessee Titans jersey. It's like
even
it's
the
just
Steelers. I like TJ Watt. He's a Steeler.
Yeah, I mean, granted, like,
get flanked for that later, but
I mean, I like Tyler Boyd because he went to Pitt. I mean, he was a legend back at Pitt. I mean, obviously he got drafted, but I mean, I don't know if you would ever catch me in a Bengals jersey. And then again, I would never Well, I know, but I don't think I would ever catch you in a Steelers jersey.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I would wear anybody in the AFC North jersey just because, out of respect for my city. But I feel like that's just how it is. I don't think a Chiefs fan would wear a Chargers jersey.
I was gonna say that Tyler Boyd had a good game yesterday, but he only had 2 receptions. It's just he got a lot of yards. He had 40 yards.
Yeah.
But no, it was a heartbreaking day yesterday. People were like texting me after the game, like a family member died. They were
You're
like,
a big fan, man.
I know I am. And people know that. And was it you who said people who know you? No, Brent said that. Brent was like, people who know you, and they want to check in on you. I was like, okay, I get that, but people were like texting like, my condolences, and I'm sorry for your loss, or I'm praying for you. I was like,
yeah. I'm gonna be the first one to say it. Like, I did not text Josh after the loss.
No, he did not. That was probably a wise move.
I didn't want to check in because I was on cloud 9 because of the Eagles. Because I posted on my Snapchat story, Gardner Goat is 1 win away from getting his ring, and like in a way, yeah, as Josh flips me off over here, you can't see it, but as Josh flips me off over here, I didn't feel like at that very moment it was a good idea for me to be like, better luck next year, pal, or something stupid like that, or like, hey, keep your head up. I felt like at that moment he was just not in the mood. So instead, I texted our former roommate, Stan the Jet fan, and said, "Hey Stan, make sure you check in on Josh. He might be depressed drinking for the next week, and I don't want him to do that." And he hearted the message. So I'm guessing Stan got the message.
I am proud of how I handled the loss because I have had a history of anger.
Yeah,
and
very depressed
and depression
after the Super
after
Bowl.
games. Okay, well, the Super Bowl, that we're not talking about that Super Bowl. That was a whole mess. That was a whole thing. Aaron Donald was offsides. But anyway,
Josh, I have another statement.
Okay.
I have another question.
But
how were you feeling after the? Okay, go ahead, Josh. Finish your statement.
After the game, I got up. I was like, "Bye, guys. I'm gonna go to my dorm." I came to my dorm. I sat here. I read a chapter from 12, Tom Brady and his battle for redemption. And then I was like, I'm not really tired. So I got on Photoshop and I started working on the banner for our YouTube, No Buts Show. And I stayed calm. People texted me. I responded, in my opinion, well. I don't think I said anything rude or snarky. I wasn't crying. I was just like, this is just the way it's going to be. I'm just going to handle this. We're going to move on. It's just a game. I thought I was mature about the whole thing. I thought I handled it well. And I did have Chiefs fans who were like texting me like, they didn't say screw you, but I'm going to say screw you. They were saying screw you and your Bengals and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to move on. Ross Chastain's going to be the NASCAR champion this year. We're going to be okay. And then Joe Burrow will go to the Super Bowl next year. It's okay. We're all going to be okay. That was how I handled it.
So so obviously you have matured a lot since over years. So you are what? You're 22 right now?
21.
21. You will be 22.
Correct.
Coming up. Okay. So when you were 14 years old in 2016, when the OG fumble in the jungle happened with Jeremy Hill, how did you react to that?
I cried.
You cried?
I cried because there's a lot of Steelers fans back home, and I did not do well with maintaining my excitement. And, at that point, everyone thought the Bengals were going to win, like, easily. And so I was texting my friends that were Steelers fans. I was like, oh yeah, see, told you we'd win. We're the underdogs. We come in and we win. We won this game. We're good. And then that happened, and I kind of had to eat that at school the next day. And so after that, I was kind of like, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. That's what my dad always said. I'm not really sure what that means, but that's what he always said. It's not over till the fat lady sings. Don't know who the fat lady is. We're not.
Don't know why she's singing. But
yeah, I don't know. 0 seconds, 0 minutes. Final. As soon as it says final, then we can start texting. Till then, nothing. Nada. But yeah, I had to eat that, and I was like, I have made a terrible mistake. As soon as Jeremy Hill dropped it, I was like, you're giving me flashbacks.
Listen, I wasn't trying to. I was just curious because I know you said how you took the loss and stuff, and I've had my fair share of obviously like heartbreaking losses and stuff over the last couple of years, and the Steelers have very much disappointed me over the last like 10 years ish. So, they've had good seasons, but they always just come up just short to some bummy team or like a 9-7 Patriots or some BS where you're like, how does this even happen? But I remember that moment. It was exciting for Steelers fans. I didn't know how it was on the opposite end. And with me being 12 at the time, you probably would have been 13 ish.
Mm-hmm.
I know how excited I was and then really depressed after the next game. I don't think I ever cried after a loss, but I did get really upset after the Packers beat the Steelers that one year. But I also was like 9.
Well, to clarify, 8. When I cry, I don't like sob. Like I wasn't sitting there like
you were just tearing up, sniffing,
mucus coming out. No, that wasn't happening. I was like tearing up, like I can't believe that happened. I remember which couch I was sitting on. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, try.
The other thing is like the Steelers at least have history to fall back on.
Oh
The
yeah,
Bengals
no,
don't. The Bengals can't be like, oh well, at least we have a Super Bowl win from whatever year. This
yeah.
is the most success the Bengals have ever had.
Yeah, and it is hard for you guys. I mean, like with the Steelers, like they definitely should have had a seventh ring by now. We've been saying stairway to seven since 2009. So like by now, with like going through Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and Le'Veon Bell, and all these players and stuff like that, you would think at this point in time we would have had maybe one more. But we haven't. So
I can't find the button I want. So nope.
that joke, nice. What the
Okay,
horn?
I thought that there was a violin button. Apparently, there's not. You're not having 7 Super Bowls though. Is the world's smallest violin.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, but like in my lifetime, like in my like the one thing that the reason I've always said this before is I love football, don't get me wrong, but I've always been a huge hockey fan. I grew up playing hockey, but one of the big things was whenever I was growing up in high school, the Stanley Cup champions back to back in my primetime childhood, in my adolescence, was the Penguins because they went to 4 Stanley Cups in my adolescence, whereas the Steelers went to 3 technically. One, I was 2 years old. The other one, I fell asleep. And then the one that they lost, I don't even remember it that much other than they just sucked. The Penguins, I remember every single one of them, and I grew up watching it. So it's like one of those things where it's like, that's why I always am like, yeah, Steelers have disappointed me. They have great history. Don't get me wrong. I love looking back on some of those old Super Bowls. And I hope that someday, whenever you have kids, Josh, you'll be able to be like, look at Joe Burrow back then with Jamar Chase. They're now retired and they're eligible for a Hall of Fame.
I hope he has a Super Bowl by then.
Hey man, we'll see. I mean, if Joe Burrow even stays with Cincinnati, maybe you guys will get.
He said
maybe you guys will.
He's gonna stay there his whole career. He said.
Hey, maybe you guys will get Bo Juro, which is even better than Joe Burrow. Bo Juro, he's coming up. He's class of 2029. Hey man, every team. You think Baltimore's happy right now? They thought Lamar Jackson was their future, and he's about to leave. I'm not saying Joe Burrow is going to leave Cincinnati because obviously they've had so much success there, but like you never know what could happen.
He grew up like 2 hours from Cincinnati.
Yeah, obviously. Like I mean, he's not going to want to leave.
Vibing with his family.
But if you hire a bad GM, you never know.
Nah, we don't do that. All of our hires the last few years have been phenomenal.
And I agree with that.
I think that's it. It was a very emotionally distraught show.
Yeah, we kind of went on different directions and stuff, but that's okay. I mean, it happens.
But
so
to the listeners, I am okay. I'm going to get over it. I still don't know who I'm rooting for in the Super Bowl. I might just wear my Ross Chastain shirt.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
No.
Gardner Goat.
No. Is there a NASCAR race the day of the Super Bowl? I might just watch that.
Why don't you watch the Puppy Bowl?
I might,
My parents get mad, like they pre-record the Puppy Bowl and then they'll turn on the Puppy Bowl if the game gets. That's what they used to do when Tom Brady used to be in the Super Bowl. When the Patriots would beat the Steelers every year, they would be like, I don't want to see Tom Brady win. So then they would turn on the Puppy Bowl that they pre-recorded. So
respect. So February 19th is the Daytona 500.
All love for my parents, by the way, but it's not a diss at them. But I just thought it was funny back then.
There isn't a NASCAR race on the day of the Super Bowl. I don't know what I'm gonna watch. I don't know. Probably the Super Bowl, but I'm gonna hate it the whole time. And I'm not watching the post game.
Enjoy it, man. Watch the Super Bowl for what it is. I know you don't want to watch it, but hey, there'll be some fun commercials. I don't care about the halftime show.
Yeah, the halftime show is gonna be. That's the thing. Like, there's nothing to like.
Hey, the commercials. Watch it for the commercials.
Commercials have been crap. The Super Bowl halftime show is going to suck. Sorry, Rihanna. It's just facts.
I'm not a big Rihanna fan.
I
mean, last year I thought was cool with the rap thing that they did.
That's the thing. They were doing so neat. Well. They went up, and then they were like, they got too high. They couldn't handle it. They went low. That wasn't a Snoop Dogg pun, by the way. They got too high, and then they just went back with Apple Music. I was like, Apple Music. I was like, Apple Music? We got maybe some people were talking about Taylor Swift. I was like, okay, not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I'd be okay with that. That'd be cool. And then it wasn't. It was Rihanna.
Yeah, Rihanna was not who I would have picked. I mean, you had The Weeknd in 2021, which I thought was really good. I mean, Shakira was interesting in 2020, but I mean, everybody was very excited with Shakira in 2020, and I was too at the end. I was like, you know what? I could vibe with this. But I mean, like, they've had fair shares of really good ones. Like, I liked the one year was Bruno Mars and stuff, and they've had some good ones.
I want it to be family friendly. That's my big thing. And Shakira and J-Lo was not, but Rihanna,
I enjoyed it.
Rihanna, I feel like can go both ways. I'm not a huge Rihanna fan. I want it to be family friendly. I want it to be entertaining. Those are the two big things. And then most of my favorite artists are all country singers, which people aren't going to.
Hey, Morgan Wallen really could be the next one.
That would be entertaining. I think he'd do good, but no one's gonna really listen to me.
And everyone will be like, yeah, the racist is able to perform the Super Bowl.
That's the thing.
It's just gonna be stupid because
he's a political figure. Final thing about the Super Bowl: it is apparently the first time two black quarterbacks have met in the Super Bowl.
That is really cool.
So that's very cool. That's cool. It is also the first time that one mom has had two sons on each team. So Jason Kelce is center for the Eagles. Travis is a tight end for the Chiefs. So that's neat. Fun facts but I still don't like either team. And that's, unless you have anything else to say, that's all I have to say for today.
No, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, Super Bowl it's going to be cool. I mean, I regardless of how it would have came out, I mean, I would have watched it anyway. Even if it was 49ers and Bengals, I would have still watched it just to see what happens. There'll be some people that aren't going to want to watch it, but give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it'll be like just a blowout game like the national championships are every year. Except this year.
To be 3-0 and Harrison Butker to kick the field goal.
I was hoping more for like a 52-45 win or something.
I want 3-0. Harrison Butker kicking the. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to do anything.
So you want the Eagles to win?
No, I don't want Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts to do anything. I want
Harrison if Jalen Hurts gets hurt and then Gardner Minshew goes in?
Okay, that might be okay.
Yeah, that's a win. Minshew mania. Woo!
But okay, that's gonna be all for today's show. That's gonna be all for today's show. The Instagram for the show, if you would like to follow us, is @nobutts_show. And my Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. The YouTube, it is up. We're going to start posting content. It has a profile picture, right? Chus? YouTube has a profile picture?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I muted myself because you usually do your spiel and I usually don't speak,
The YouTube has a profile picture, and I'm working on the banner right now. We're going to start posting content up there, possibly starting with this episode. And Chus is excited now. I made that decision mid-show. And then my email is bullmoosepodcast2@gmail.com. That is bullmoosepodcast, the number 2@gmail.com. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, subscribe, like, share, rate, do all the things. Tell your friends. Until Wednesday, when we talk about are tight ends necessary in the modern football to have a super team. That will be the discussion. We were supposed to have it last week. We moved it to this Wednesday. I hope everyone has a great week until then, and go do something nice for somebody else.